is Christopher Kroon Martin, and it is a pleasure to be with you. And we're going to be discussing all the various things that you can use in Microsoft with accessibility tools. So before we get started, there will be times where I'll ask you to say something in the chat to interact with us, to let us know that you're there and let us know some of your thoughts. So if you're unfamiliar with Teams and how to access the chat features, you will hover over the screen and you'll see a little floating toolbar at the bottom. And the first thing you'll want to do is click on the little message or speech bubble. And along on the right-hand side of the page, a pop-up for the chat will appear. And at the bottom of that chat pane, you'll have the option to type in some information or answer the question or ask the question that you might have. And then you want to make sure you press the little airplane in the bottom right-hand corner to send that airplane message or to send that message to us. And we'll be more than happy to answer your question if you have it, or just if you just want to add to the conversation. So once again, it is a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm so glad you decided to join us today. We will be talking about empowering our students to be the creators of tomorrow. So what can our students do today to prepare themselves for the future? So at Microsoft, we believe in the power of the global learning, the power of learning from each other, and the importance of collaboration to fuel modern skills that students are required to have to be successful. That's why we've created that Microsoft Educator community. So we want you to visit the Microsoft Educator community at any time and learn as much as you can and share the information with others, because it takes a village to raise a child, and we're not just taking the information and just saving it for ourselves. We want you to promote the Microsoft Educator communities as we promote teachers and students in the global society. All right, so step one, you have to know who your audience is when you're getting ready to make sure that the work that you're doing or the tools that you're using are accessible. So you have to know the need for the students. So you have to actually know what your students will need. So over 1 billion people have disabilities in the world, and they have to be able to navigate and get through life just as we do. So many different disability segments to consider. Each person is unique and will experience disability in their own way. That some that are visible, maybe a person in a wheelchair. Others may be invisible, like someone who could be bipolar. And people can be born with a disability or have disabilities that become apparent over time. And that might lead to a situational limitation. And it could be something in aging and discussion. So disabilities is on a really big spectrum, and it can go from the stuff that is kind of easy to spot to things that are really difficult to spot if you're not aware of the particulars of that person. So the cognitive area is growing. As an example, in the 1980s, 1 in 180,000 kids had autism. Now it's number 1 in 68. So 1 out of 68 people have autism. That's an astounding fact to think about. And then you have got disabilities that can affect multiple areas. Things like Parkinson's disease that affects the cognition, speech, and mobility. Things like ALS can affect mobility and speech as well. Remember, disability can come in a wide variety of forms, both visible and invisible, and they can affect us at any time. So keep those things in mind as we progress. The second step that you need to be aware of is we need to work with the tools that you've already got. So there's no need to go and buy all these fancy big tools when you may have something right here on your computer right now that can meet the need for your students. So keep that in mind as well. So step 3 is coming up in just a second. But before we get to step 3, you have to consider some of the tools that Microsoft has put in place. So Microsoft has tools for visually impaired. We have tools for hearing impaired. We have tools that help with speech and cognition, and as well as those who can't navigate maybe with your fingers or their hands as well as others. But we also have things that can help provide for the neurological people as well, who may have difficulties with that as well. So step 3, adjust your old content as you go. So don't just stop in your tracks and have to redo everything from beginning to end when you're thinking about how to make things accessible for your learners and for your audience. Take it bit by bit, piece by piece, and change and adjust as you go. So don't just think that a one size fit all, if I go in today and modify all of my documents, all of my curriculum, all of my presentations today, that it'll be fine for students or your audience later as they go. So you'll know that your need will be met as you go along and as you progress. So accessibility tools in Office 365. Did you know that if you are in Microsoft Word or Office 365, you have access to a new tool called the Editor? That's up in the toolbar underneath the Review. Also, you have the Researcher, which gives you the opportunity to search within that particular program, so you don't necessarily have to go out into a Bing web search or another third-party website to find information and content. Office Lens is an awesome tool that you can download to your device and scan a document or with your camera, and it will send it to your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 OneDrive account. It can also read it to you if you need to as well. Immersive Reader is one of my favorite tools, and if we get to it today, I'll be sure to share it with you. It allows the audience or the participant to modify what they see on the screen, and actually puts them into context of the document, and it will read it to them, and they have a couple of formatting options that they can apply as well. The accessibility checker is available on all of the Microsoft platforms, usually underneath the settings or the options, and it'll tell you if it's accessible to most of your audience. All right, so let's keep moving. I have so much to share with you guys today. So while you're doing this, I want you to make sure that you're communicating with your diverse audience in mind. So as much as 8% of the male population and 0.5% of the female population has some type of color blindness, according to the National Eye Institute. So as you are thinking about picking out colors and text on your presentations and on your graphics, you want to make sure that they are accessible. So note on the screen that you have to make it large enough, and as well as it has to have enough contrast for your audience to determine what is what. So what is a picture, what is a letter, what is a character on the screen. So we can ensure that our presentation is visible to a wider audience by having a high contrast and color between background and text. High contrast can also help students with other print disabilities such as dyslexia. Making sure that the words on the screens are visible, that will make sure the information is conveyed and that it will stand out. Text that appears over the top of graphics can be difficult for many people to read because they're competing colors and there are images around words. So a simple text on a simple background is our best friend when we talk about making our presentations accessible. All right, so creating new content with accessibility in mind. So when you're getting ready to look at the differences of what you've already created and how to modify it to when you're starting that new PowerPoint out or you're starting that new Word document. Are you going to start with the settings in mind of I need to have extra space here, or I need to make sure that the background is this color? So keep those things in mind as you're creating new content. So in Word, you want to make sure that you are using your headings. So they have predefined headings, if you notice. Typically it's on normal, but do have that wide variety, the wide spectrum of headings that you can use to apply for your audience. And it's really simple to use. So here's an example. Here's my document. And notice how I have under styles, I have all of these different headings that I can choose from. And these are really simple. And one click and it will make my work stand out. Okay. And if you hover over, if you don't like it, you can always click on the drop down and change it to a different heading. And there are also other settings down here for as far as creating a style, clearing your formatting, and you can apply different styles. So that's one tool within Microsoft Word that's available for you to use to ensure that your documents are easily accessible. So create sections for your papers and also here's another power user tip I want to share with you guys in Word. So here it is. I made my heading, make my work stand out. And if I press enter a couple of times, notice how it jumps back down to normal. If I type in another tagline here, so I love to work with students, and I select it, and I'll change that to a heading as well. Notice that you have this little arrow that pops up as you hover over. That is actually creating a section. So if you go to references, you'll have the option to insert a table of contents, and notice your headings appear here in the table of contents. So if I clicked on that first one, notice how this entire block right here is now a table of contents. So you can have sections that you can expand and collapse within your Word document. And that's all about breaking down the assignments into manageable parts. So creating that table of contents that we talked about. So use a hack, share a hack. That's step 5. Use a hack, share a hack. So when you learn something, share it with others so that we can spread the love of knowing how to and what to do with our accessibility tools. So I keep jumping back to this graphic because it's so important, and I know some people are trying to gain an understanding of this, but think about it this way. The more you put it in front of the audience, the easier for them to understand it, 1, and 2, this is a great example of how something is accessible for our learners. We have a simple heading at the top, we have a graphic, and we have a easy to read background with the words on top. No competing priorities are here, and notice that it is categorized very easily. So keep that in mind. Step 6, creating a new habit. Creating a new habit. How can you create a new habit? So you have to think about how you want to share with others. So I'm going to go back to this Word document, and a couple of things that I want to show you is the editor, and the editor is actually in the online version right now. It's going to come to the full Office 365 tenant version. So once you download it to your computer, you'll see it. So I'm just pulling up a Word document, and here's my Word document. And you'll notice that one of my tools is the editors right here. So once you open it up, you'll see some tools. So if I grab some text here and I type in happy birthday to you, I'm so glad you are with me to share in the awesomeness. Notice I spelled that word incorrectly. Of my party. Now, as you can see, as I was typing, some things started happening over here on the right side of the screen in the editor. It says I have one spelling error. So if I click on it, it'll go directly to that issue. And that's great for some of our students who have issues when they're typing. So that might be something that you might want to bring into play. So not necessarily when you're creating something for someone else, but when they're actually being a creator of content. So as they're typing, they have that tool, and notice that when all the spelling errors are gone, you get a nice check. So sometimes we had that little red squiggly line that we just had. So if I spell a word incorrect, you get that red squiggly line. That could actually be a hindrance to some of our students and some of our learners as they're writing or they're typing, because they may not be able to distinguish if that it's an incorrect word or if it's spelled incorrectly. It doesn't really give you much other than a red squiggly line. Then what if you had a student who was colorblind? They don't know that that's a red line, the squiggly. They may think it's green or they may think it's blue. So they don't actually know what it is. So in the editor, you can come over and you'll find that it actually tells you what it is, okay? And then you can come down and click around here and find any other issues that you may have. And then at the very, very bottom, you'll begin to get statistics on readability score and distinct words that are present. If it's able to be spoken see, there we go, popped in. So it takes 9 seconds to speak, 6 seconds to read. There are 19 distinct words here. And if there are any enhancements are present. So if I highlight a phrase or a word, momentarily you'll begin to see if things are highlighted, if there are headings present. And then of course, if you love this tool, you can always give feedback if you want to see other things present. So isn't that an awesome tool so far? I want to pause for just a second because I want to see if you could actually use this tool or have used this tool. So in the comments of or in the chat of our session today, go ahead and drop a line in there and tell us about how you might potentially use the editor in the things that you're creating, or how you might have your students use the editor when they're creating things, and if this is actually going to be a beneficial tool for you. So I'm going to pause for a few moments and allow you some time to chat with us and tell us what's going on and what your thoughts are. And this is called wait time. I love to model how you always give wait time and allow people to process things, because they might come up with a great idea, but they just needed a little bit more time to focus on getting it out. So add it to the chat, add it to the chat. Let's see what we have to say. All right. You could use this with your students. You could use this with your personal child at home could benefit from this. Awesome. That's an awesome thing to see. We're going to keep moving, keep moving. I did show you how to make those header sections in the full version of Word. I wanted to make sure you're aware that you can actually do that here in the online version as well too. Let's see. So if I type a heading, so heading number 1, heading number 2, heading number 3, and then if I highlight any of that, note that if I click on my little caret menu, so notice there's a power user tip right there. I didn't see all of my tools. So I looked over in the very, very far right-hand corner to that little drop down to expand my ribbon. And there are my styles, and there's my font and all the fancy tools. So if I click on it, and there's the heading option. So if I click there, Notice that it changed that heading to a heading. There we go. And once again, if you insert if you insert certain things, you'll begin to see that you can collapse and expand things. So notice that in the online version, if I click on view and then I click on navigation, it shows me my different headings. So let's say I had lots and lots of space in between heading number 1 and lots of space between heading number 2 and 3. If I had my navigation pane on and I clicked on heading number 1, notice that it jumps my entire document back up to heading number 1. So that's a great navigational tool for you as a teacher, or you as an educator, or you as just a person who uses Word, that lots of people don't know that this is a great accessibility option to navigating a Word document. So jumping around to sections really easily. Also, the Immersive Reader is here underneath View in the online version. So if I click on Immersive Reader, notice how it pops out the text. So I'm actually going to go and find some text for you guys, because it's not much fun when you're looking at a blank page. So here is some text. And I'm going to actually jump out of the Immersive Reader. And I'm going to put my text on the page. So there's my text. That's a lot of text, isn't it? I type so fast, don't I? So here's my paper on geography. I wanted or I wanted to make sure that my students can access this document that we have, this article that we have. So once again, I'm in Word Online and I clicked on View, and now I'm going to click on Immersive Reader. So what it has done, it has placed me inside of this document. So it took away all of the distractions. It actually picked me up and placed me inside of this article. My favorite part of the Immersive Reader is this play button down here. If you click on the play button, it will begin to read to you. And note that the screen goes gray and the background fades out, and it reads.
Landforms can be mountains and valleys. They can also be glaciers, lakes, or rivers.
So it reads word by word, and it highlights the word as it goes. So it's kind of like that old karaoke or that bouncing ball thing that we used to have back in the day, to help our students actually focus on what word is present. So this is going to help your readers, your struggling readers, or I actually put a lot of my documents inside the Immersive Reader and turned on to have it read to me, because I like to multitask. So that's one of the things that if you don't have a disability or you don't need things to be accessible to you, that's another bonus that you can use it for yourself. Now, let's dig in a little bit deeper in the Immersive Reader. So right next to that play button, you'll see a voice settings button. So I could speed up or slow down the pace that the document is being read to me. I can change it from a male voice to a female voice, all in personal preference. Now, before I go any further, I know people are asking the questions. Well, if I'm a teacher, can I set this up for my students before they get to it, so all they have to do is jump into it and push play? At this time, you have to empower your students to come into the Immersive Reader, to turn it on, and to turn on the settings that works best for them. Okay, so it's not always going to be the teacher has to set it up for them. They have to make sure that they are able to set it up for themselves. Okay, so those are the first basic tools. But wait, you know me. If you've ever been in a session with me before, you know I have a little bit more to share with you. So up here in the upper right hand corner of the Immersive Reader, you have this double A. This is called your text preferences. So if you click on it, you can make the text size smaller or larger. So right there, that's an awesome tool. So if you're in front of a group of people, or in front of a class and you want to talk about a particular sentence, you can draw their attention in by making that text size bigger really quickly. The next thing you want to go down to is increased spacing. So if I turn it off, notice that the words in the lines are closer. And if I turn it back on, it spreads it out a bit so it's easier to read. So that's awesome for our students who have issues with placements of letters, also dyslexia and some other disabilities. So that's easily turned on and off. Some students need certain fonts to help them when they're reading things. So you have the option and the ability to turn or switch the font really easily. And then you have some themes down here. So as we talked about earlier, depending on the background and the text color and the text shade, it might be difficult for some students to read. So within the Immersive Reader, with a click of a button, I've quickly changed the background of this document. So now I have white letters and black background, and perhaps that doesn't work for me. Maybe I need the high contrast of the yellow and the black. Maybe none of these work. There are always more options than the more options button. So whatever works. And I've had students and I've had teachers just come into Immersive Reader just because they wanted lavender on the screen because it was peaceful for them and tranquil for them. So it just calmed their fears and calmed down their emotional state so they could actually get their work done and actually understand the document. Another option is source formatting. That's brand new. So if you needed to turn that on, that's available as well. Now, there is so much more that I need to share with you about the Immersive Reader. I could talk about the Immersive Reader for days if you haven't noticed. The next option is this little magical wand right here. And it's actually the grammar option. So I know my language arts teachers out there are screaming and shouting and jumping up and down. And those people who have that English background. But this is also great for the foreign language teachers, and I'll share that in a little bit as well. So underneath the grammar settings, if you turn on syllables, it shows you the breakdowns of the words. So rivers, landforms. It breaks it down into the different syllables. So that's awesome in your younger grades when you're teaching students about syllables and how to pronounce things, but also your parts of speech. If you turn it on, it automatically colorizes and labels, if I turn the labels on, those parts of speech. So if I'm doing a lesson on verbs, I could start my lesson off and say, what do you notice about all of the words that are highlighted in red? The students will say, well, some of them are action words and some of them are state of being words. And I would say as a teacher, and what are those types of words called? They're called verbs, yay! And then I would turn on the labels to ensure that the kids are identifying that part of speech correctly. So you're now taking out a big part of diagramming sentences and learning about the different parts of speech, and you're putting that at the student's access and at that student's fingertips. So they can be at home typing up their own essay or something, and they can actually come in and label the parts of speeches to ensure that they have everything present. One other thing that I love about the Immersive Reader is that you can always come in and change it. So if you are using a particular format and all your verbs have to be one color and all of your nouns have to be one color, you can come in and modify your Immersive Reader experience to do just that. So that is our grammar options. Next, we have our reading preferences. Reading preferences is one of my favorites as well because of a line focus. So depending on the size of your text, and my text is pretty, large. It's not as large as it could be, but it's pretty large. You can focus your reader's attention. So I'm going to close that. And now notice that I have one line selected and I have these green arrows that can draw my students or my readers' attention to this particular one line. This is awesome when you want your students to focus in or you want to focus in yourself on one particular sentence or one particular line. So that's great, especially in the ELA dealing with poetry. Or if you're looking in social studies and you're looking at this particular article, or in science, this particular concept in the lab experiment. So this is a great opportunity for students to just draw their attention in on one particular aspect. So I'm going to go back into the settings, and I'm actually going to adjust my text size. I'm going to make it a bit smaller, so about right about there. And then I'm going to go back to my reading preferences, and now notice that I have another option for line focus. So now instead of one line, I can have 3 lines. So once again, it all depends on the size of the text that you have your immersive reader set to. So I'm going to go really tiny this time, and I'm going to go back to my reading preferences. And now note that I have the option to show 5 lines of text. So that's great when you're dealing with the different sizes of the text, and when you're looking at particular documents. So if I wanted just a stanza of poetry highlighted and I wanted to get rid of everything else, this will be an awesome way to do it. And me as a student, this just allows me to just dive deeper into my work. Okay, let's keep it moving. I'm gonna go back to 3 because I like 3. My next favorite thing to talk about is the picture dictionary. Let me make my text a little bit larger for my viewers out there in webinar land. So here we are, picture dictionary. If I turn on the picture dictionary, it looks like nothing's happened. But all I have to do is click on a word. And now notice I have a picture of whatever that word was or whatever that word is. And I have the option to click on the little audio button, and it will read that word to me. So note that some words don't have that picture, but most, if it is a word that you can actually put a picture to really easily, it's easy for the system to generate that picture for your students and yourself. Isn't that awesome? I thought it was. Next, we have translate. Now, first things first, with translate, you have to select your language. So what do I feel like talking today? Let's see, let's go with Dutch. And now I have the option to translate by word or the entire document. I'm going to start off by word. So I'm going to click on the word students. Now notice I have the word students in English above, and then I have that Dutch translation below. And just like with everything else, if I click on the sound button there, it will read it to me in that particular language. And I hope you guys could hear that a little bit. So that's an awesome feature for your foreign language teachers. Or if you're in social studies or in science and you have those different words that come in, maybe in Latin or some other type of language, and you're not sure because you're not the foreign language teacher, or you're not immersed in that particular language, it takes out some of that worrisome or that bothersome feeling that you might have of presenting that to your students, so that you can access that and you can have the system read that to you instead of you stumbling over and trying to make up a way to say a word. So that was looking at translate by word. We can also look at translate by the entire document. So if I switch on the document, notice that the entire document has now been translated into Dutch. At the center of your screen, you'll see original and Dutch. So you can still toggle between the 2 languages. So if you're reading something and you want to read a sentence or a paragraph in English, and then you want to read it in Dutch, It's easy to switch over. So that's one way, and I will turn my picture dictionaries back on. If I click on it, the picture dictionary still works. The English still works. So if I'm trying to navigate through something for the first time in a different language, I can always turn some of those features on to help me understand. That's an awesome feature. Now, in order to exit out of the Immersive Reader, all you do is click on that little back arrow next to the word Immersive Reader on the left side of the screen in the upper right-hand corner. So you click on it, you jump back out to your Word online document. Notice nothing has changed here. We did not edit any of our content. All of our article is still intact. All we have to do is just jump in and out by clicking on the Immersive Reader. And it just does it just like that. Isn't that awesome? All right, I'm going to pause for a moment because I know we have a lot of chatter going on in the background here. And I'll just review a little bit of it. I'm so excited. I always get so excited when I share these things because teachers and students and educators just absolutely love them. And they've been asking for them for years. So now Microsoft has done an awesome job of providing these tools and resources for us and our students. So great feedback. So many other things, talking about the editor, talking about great things for conciseness and word spellings, parts of speech, changing the color to your own code, line focus. That is so helpful. Picture dictionary, especially with the different languages. I totally agree. I really wish I had this tool when I was in school, because if I had it, I would have been a straight A student in my foreign language class. I had to take it a couple of times, but I eventually got it. But that's neither here nor there. Great features. And they're all integrated into your Office 365, Microsoft 365 account. So no need to buy anything new, no need to buy anything or purchase anything for any of your students. You already have access to all of these things. So we've talked about a lot of these things. We talked about accessibility tools for the low vision and the blind and the visual, the hearing, the cognitive, speech. We've talked about a lot of these things. Microsoft has really just done an awesome job. Step 7, don't assume, ensure. So lots of times when we are working with teachers and students, we don't always know what we don't know. So don't assume that your students know about these tools. Don't assume that your coworkers know about these tools. Don't assume that your parents know about these tools. You have to be proactive. You have to share. So it goes back to one of our other steps where it says hack one and then share one. So make sure you are sharing these tools with everyone, because it is an awesome resource, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to these awesome tools. I want to pause before we wrap it up today. I do want to take questions because I know we might have a few out there. So I'm going to pause and take questions, and I'm going to listen to all of your questions because I'm so excited to get them. Are all of these free? Yes, every last one is included in your Microsoft 365 account. All you have to do is simply open up Word Online, and it's right there. Most are located in the view. I do want to show you how to access the accessibility features and readers. So I'll do that in just a second. So if you go into your Word document, and here's our Word document. Let me pull that back over for you guys. There it is. Here's the Word document. If you click on, so there's the editor. underneath review, check accessibility. If you click on that, you'll get a pop-up on the right-hand side, and it gives you the opportunity to check your document for accessibility. So if you had pictures included inside of your document that didn't have alternate text, it would say something about that. If you had things that didn't quite make sense, or you had headings or misplaced colors or misplaced shapes, it would say something about that in accessibility. So I encourage you to always run the accessibility checker in all of your Microsoft tools. So it's not just limited to Word Online. They're available in PowerPoint. It's available in Excel. It's available pretty much everywhere you have access to the Microsoft tools. So be mindful about that, because I want to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful and for your students to be successful when they are using the Office 365 tools. All right. Are there any more questions out there before we wrap it up? Because I always want to provide the opportunity for you guys to ask questions and to make sure that you are feeling confident in about what you are getting ready to share with others, because it is always easier, or it's the best way to make sure that you know something is to make sure that you can share it with others. All right. Any final questions before we give you the amazing survey code and the amazing redeem point thingy that you go into your Microsoft Educator community and you give points so you can get your nice digital badge? Digital badge. Digital badge. Anybody want a digital badge out there? I want a digital badge. All right. So if you will, it has been a pleasure working with you guys. And if you'll notice in the chat, I am now placing something for you as a gift to you. Here is your code. So if you go to the Microsoft Educator community and you put that code under redeem, you can get points for actually attending our session today. And momentarily, I'll give you a survey that I would love for you to fill out, because we want to know how we did and if we met your need today. And then guess what? You'll be on your way. All right, so here we go. Here we go. I'm getting ready to put it up in just a second. Here is the survey. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. Chat survey. In 3, 2, 1. Waiting on the chat. Here is the survey. Here is the survey. So, awesome, 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 awesome. It was a pleasure working with everyone today. And make sure you tweet out using the hashtags. Using the hashtags for Microsoft EDU. Make sure you reach out to PowerUpEDU for any PL needs that you might have dealing with Microsoft. And you can reach us at pl@powerupedu.com. We love working with you. We love hearing from you. It was a pleasure working with you today. And I enjoyed working with you so much. I will be back anytime you need me. Reach out to us. Some of those, some of the offerings and trainings that we have deals with teams. It deals with using technology with your students. It also deals with being awesome. So let us know what you need. We're here for you. It was a pleasure working with you guys today, and we hope to hear from you soon. So once again, if you need us, reach out to us at pl@powerupedu.com. Follow us on Twitter at PowerUpEDU, and always use the hashtag Microsoft EDU. Looking forward to hearing from you. Have an awesome day.